Hi, it's Scott Vogel on sex addiction. I'm going to answer the question most often asked: how can I help a family member who has a sex addiction? Sex addiction, as you may have come to know, is a very powerful force. And it has ramifications that are not only felt by the sex addict, but by his or her family members. And for you, it's admirable to want to do all you can to help your family member who's struggling with sex addiction. The goal, obviously, is to put your family back together so that they become healthy and strong. Now, there are some things you can do to help the member of your family. Keep in mind, however, you're likely to experience some of the consequences of the presence of the addiction in your own life. So you're probably best able to help that family member when you yourself are healthy. So it may be helpful for you to engage in some kind of counseling during the recovery process in this very trying time in your family. There's many resources available online to help your family member deal with sex addiction without sacrificing your own well-being. COSA, which is located at cosa-recovery.org, is a 12-step recovery program for men and women whose lives have been affected by another person's obsessive-compulsive sexual behavior. If your family member hasn't yet admitted to having an issue with sex addiction, things can be more challenging for you. While it's difficult to know for sure if someone is actually a sex addict without them confessing, there are signs you can look for and behaviors that will act as red flags. If you see a consistent self-destructive behavior in that person's lives, if they're ignoring responsibilities and duties, if they're constantly holed up in a room in activities that you're not sure about, if you find that family member getting caught in the same lies over and over again, of course more obvious if you notice unusual charges on your credit card, or if your phone bills are unusually high with strange phone numbers. There are other telltale signs, and the important part is to not ignore these signs. As hard as it may be, if you choose to ignore the obvious presence of sex addiction, you're actually contributing to the problem. Sex addiction will not go away. Willpower will not work. Sex addiction is a progressive disease, and over time the consequences will increase in severity. So, trust your instincts. If you have good reason to believe that your family member has a sex addiction, it's important you speak up. Confront the person in a way that is non-threatening as possible. Be clear and concise, and share examples of how this problem is affecting your family. Once you've confronted the family member with their sex addiction, and the problem is shown to be creating more problems for the family, it's time to step back for a minute. Don't try to make the consequences of the addict's actions any easier than they should be. It's vitally important that you protect yourself and your family, and you stay strong until the addict is willing to get help for the addiction. Let the addict know you're willing and interested in constructive conversations, and make yourself available to listen. It isn't important to have the answers, but it is important to listen. You may find it useful to do some research about sex addiction so you can have helpful talks with the addict in your family. Another suggestion is to find out where local 12-step meetings are and let your family member know that you're willing to offer moral support, which may be driving the person to the meetings or helping the person finding the meetings. Do your best to remain positive. It's a challenging, trying time for the sex addict. While the presence of sex addiction in your family is certainly going to be hard on you, try to offer this positive reinforcement to the addict. It's likely there'll be times when this person is feeling down about the progress he or she has made, is failing to meet the goals they have set, or even worse, they may have a relapse. In these times, it's important that someone is available to offer words of encouragement and help them get back on track in their recovery. It's not easy to know what to do, to know what you should say, and what the best way to offer support may be. Remember, though, your family member has a greater chance of successful recovery if you are supportive of the process. So remember, be aware of the consequences and what they can do to your family. Remember, there are signs to look for: the behaviors, charges, solitude, avoiding responsibilities. Don't ignore the signs. Don't ignore the consequences. Don't ignore the addiction. It will not go away. Confront the person in a healthy manner, being clear, concise. Step back and take a look at the situation. Protect yourself. Do research to find out how you can support the person in their recovery. Support them, support them, support them. For more information on sex addiction, visit our YouTube channel, On Sex Addiction, where you'll find more videos on sex addiction and recovery from sex addiction. Go to www.onsexaddiction.com for a free video explaining what sex addiction is, 7 symptoms of sex addiction, the 4 traumas of sex addiction, the 4 faulty core beliefs created by the 4 traumas of addiction, and the 7 paths to success in recovery from sex addiction, the solution. You'll also find more information about sex addiction and sex addiction recovery.